This lady needs no introduction. We're very proud and very pleased. Will you please welcome Julia Child?
And welcome all of you to this seminar. I think this is probably one of the largest and best conventions that we've had so far of the IACS. And what we want to do today, all of us on the panel, is to discuss some aspects of television cooking, that there's so many parts of it that you don't have to be in front of the camera, you can be behind it. And I'd like to introduce my panel. I have Rosemary Manell, who is our food designer and a very fine cook as well. Marion Morash, executive chef, and she also does a cooking segment on the Victory Garden. And Nancy Barr, who will tell us a great deal about behind the scenes in Good Morning America. And we have Paula Began, who is our makeup artist, who's going to discuss how all of us can do something to fix ourselves up when there's no makeup artist ready. And behind the scenes is Sonia Selby-Wright, who is the producer for our Good Morning America segments and is the producer of this show, and you will meet her later when she's going to discuss her work. And to begin, we're going to, Marion and Rosemary and I are involved in a series of video cassettes for television, because everybody now has a recording machine, and these will be 1-hour cassettes, a 6-part series called The Way to Cook. We've done 5 of them, and next week we'll be doing our 6th and final, and our producer Russ Morash has made a little rough-cut mini documentary on how we are doing, how we're going about doing this, and I think we're ready to show the tape now. But what you want to be very careful when you're cooking the duck is that you don't overcook it. On the package that this duck came in, it said cook it about 3 hours, and that's crazy. I don't know what you get. You just got a piece of dry straw, I think. And one thing, I think a pail is very good for rye bread, because rye is really so sticky. I don't know why wallpaper hangers use white flour, because it seems to me that the wallpaper would stick much better with rye flour. Take a cleaver and chop down to the end. And there you have your breast, which you want now to cut in half crosswise to make 2 pieces. So take your cleaver and go, bang! That didn't cut properly. I'll have to whang it in the middle there a little bit. My aim was not good today, but anyway, 2 pieces of breast. And I'm going to serve these with fresh strawberries and cream. So this is whipped cream that also has been lightened with a bit of egg white. It's about one cup of cream that's whipped, and then about 1 egg white that has been folded into it, along with a bit of sugar and a little bit of rum flavoring. Matter of fact, you can put some rum flavoring in these cookies if you want. If I hadn't been talking so much, I would have put some in.
Oh, this tree is about 30, 35 years old.
How old do they get to be?
Oh, anywhere from 50 to 60 years.
Nubbins, and keep right on producing. So, things with the nubbins on, or these are baby dates?
Yes, this is a date we're going to have to pollinate.
Uh-huh.
After Mother Nature couldn't do her job, we're going to have to help her.
Mm-hmm. Grandmother would have called the dish I'm about to do chicken fricassee, but Granny didn't cook with white wine, and I do. So this is going to be cream of chicken in white wine sauce. Here's our chicken poached in aromatic vegetables and white wine. And exactly the same sauce you just saw being made. And here is the same chicken, but taken off the bone and diced and covered with the same sauce. It's perfect for stuffing crepes or patty shells. It makes a lovely chicken pot pie. Oh, this is the Santa Barbara Bird Sanctuary. It used to be called the Slough. But now since they've called it a bird sanctuary, we seem to have one of everything. There are ducks and geese, and there are even some chickens. And up there is the railroad that goes all the way from Mexico up to Seattle, I guess, and every once in a while it comes by making a terrible racket. Right here, that yellow building with the awning is a very good restaurant called Michael's Waterside. And we're able to borrow ice from them. And the other day we borrowed a leg of lamb and some ham. And here to the right is our little studio. As you can see, there's a for sale sign on it, but that's why we could rent it. But it turns out to be a marvelous studio. Come on, I'm going to show you around. I'm told that you can buy that restaurant and this studio of ours together for a cool $1.5 million. This building was once a restaurant and an antique shop, and they even say it was used for mud wrestling. But it makes a marvelous studio, as you're going to see. Here we go. As you can see, it's all fake here. We were just taping soups and bread. Look at that really good bread. We all made that today. But as you can see, we've got a work counter here. It's not very solid, but we have water that works. A sink. This was all rigged up. See that all works. Then over here, this is a cooktop. It's a little, it's a little rickety. I think you've noticed it more when we close the oven door. You can see that shakes a little bit, but it's a real oven that cooked everything in it. Then we have antiques. And all of us who did cookbooks have our own cookbooks there, as you can see. Isn't that's fun? I don't think anyone probably sees them on the set. And this is a painting of eggs by my niece Erica. And there's a beautiful fireplace. I don't remember how much that cost. And our pussycats here, which I'm a cat freak. And then we even have, because we're doing this video book for video cassettes, we even have a little television here to remind people that this is video cassettes. And now, back here is the control room. This is Chris, who's our editor's son. This is Nina, who's our production coordinator. But she logs everything so that we know exactly how far we've gone. And then come on in here, I'm going to show you Rosie's room. Rosie! And then every time that we have a finished product, Rosie has to arrange it. So we get, say, a soup or something, and we said, food designer!
Sure I am.
This is our little room that's just for makeup. And she's there every minute saying, don't drink coffee, you'll ruin your lips.
Don't smear your lips.
We have this wonderful prep kitchen. Paul Child is my husband, also our unofficial photographer. And this is Linda, who is an associate cook. And this is Karen Scott. And we're very lucky to have two professionals. And over here, this is Paul McPherson. She caters all of our lunches and also does all the shopping, and then we force her into peeling cucumbers and other things. We're very lucky having the hotel and restaurant management in the Santa Barbara, and they do all of our dishwashing for us. I don't know why they like it, but they seem to. And we have here, well, this is one of our main institutes, which is Marion Morash, our executive chef. And she is a chef at the Straight Wharf restaurant in Nantucket, and also the author of the Victory Garden cookbook and a television cook.
You got it all in, Julia.
Well, say something, Marion. Tell us what your function is exactly.
My function is to preside over the best crew ever assembled for a television video product ever, and to work with a friend of mine, Julia, who taught me that I should not cook tuna fish casseroles anymore 20 years ago. And we just have a lot of fun together.
Well, now you see, it takes all all of this just to do a simple little home video. And you haven't seen everything yet. You haven't met our editor, Judith Jones, nor our secretary, Anand. So come on upstairs. And this is Derek Dickens. Hi, Derek.
Hello.
Derek's our set technician, and he's responsible for keeping everything clean during the taping. Derek, wipe that up. Derek, pick that up. You're doing a beautiful job, dear. Now, come on upstairs. This is Anand West, who is our ever-active secretary with her word processor. She has to do all the scripts and everything else. She's also the wife of the museum director at Santa Barbara. And this is Judith Jones of Knopf, who was our editor. And Judith, can you describe what you're doing and why and what?
Well, for one thing, we write a booklet each week along with the tape. And so we have to write down the exact amounts and directions as to...
So that when you get a tape, you get a little booklet of recipes along with it.
Yeah.
This is such a very different enterprise, and we're kind of pioneering in it. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Judith. I think we ought to go and find Russ.
Okay.
Okay. Here's Chip Adams, our electronics engineer. Chip, where are you from?
I'm from Northampton, Julie.
You are?
Yeah.
Smith College place.
Yeah, that's where it is.
And where'd you start in?
About 20 miles south of there, in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
A little public TV station.
Oh, I know that one. It's a very good one.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice place.
Well, you're a wonderful mechanic, I must say, as well. And here is Dick Holden, who is our seeing eye. He does everything that you see is done by Dick. How long have you been working with Russ?
For 8 or 9 years now.
Doing Victory Garden.
A lot of Victory Garden, a lot of This Old House.
And you also did Dinner at
Julia's.
Julia's.
That's right.
And you're a wonderful cook now. But
I
he's
love
a
watching your knife
remarkable,
work, Julia.
but he's a remarkable cameraman, just as steady as a rock. And you perceive everything that's going to happen right away, which always amazes me.
Well, thank you.
Now, we're still trying to find Russ. Someone said he was in his truck.
I think he's outside in the parking lot in his van. Would you believe it, listening to tapes?
Oh, I guess because we haven't
He likes
picked
to be
the right
alone,
one.
you know.
Well, let's go out and find him.
Okay.
Okay. Well, hi there, Ross.
What do you think?
It's kind of nice, but maybe a little too classical.
A little too classical?
You know.
It's hard. It's hard to
very
get just
hard.
the right tune.
I know it is.
I was going to give you a little Star Wars thing, but I don't think that would play
That
in
might be a
Seattle.
little too loud.
No.
Well, how do you think things are going?
Well, we finished what? We finished the fourth show.
We finished the fourth show.
We got 2 more to go.
But it's interesting when you think of when we began.
No, 2
When it was
shows.
over 20 years ago, we did 4 shows a week.
Yeah, we did 2 shows on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday was another show that I was doing, and then Thursday we'd come back and do 2 more shows.
I really don't know how we did it.
Well, in any case, this is some different, where it's taken us, what, almost a week to turn out 60 minutes of usable home video.
Well, I think this is very different because the way we rehearse each section so much, because you can't have a bottle in the way of the chicken or something like
Exactly.
that. You know.
Well, I think you're doing a great job, Julie. Let's hope that it's all worthwhile.
Well, I would like to say, Russell, that I consider you the Alfred Hitchcock of the how-to video. I mean,
Well,
you're
why do you keep calling me the Ayatollah? Hey, listen, I'm sorry I can't join you for lunch, but you understand. I got to get back to my music.
okay, dear. Good luck. He has a great deal of imagination. I would just sort of cook and talk and talk and talk, but he really has his eye on the target every moment. We've got a marvelous crew, but we'd have nothing without him. Well, just you can see 15 people to do these little tapes. It's really isn't. I think we are pioneering in this videotape business. I think now how many millions of cassettes there are, and I'd like to introduce, because Rosie and Marion and I have all been working together on this tape, and Rosie will discuss what she does as food designer.
I was asked to talk about what a food designer does And I only know what one food designer does because I've been so busy over the years, I've never seen anyone else do it. So it's, I think, one of the best jobs in television, especially if you have friends like this to work with. And I think the way I feel about it, I feel responsible for everything that isn't nailed down. And that, which means the set, all the dishes, the pots and pans that are shown that Julia uses, and the set decorations. And I think it's very helpful to have had some background in design and art and so on, which I have had, which I find useful over the years. And I think it's very important always to be ready for anything, which sounds like a very broad statement. But one of the exciting things about working on television for small segments or for the cassettes we're doing now is the fact that anything can happen and nothing is ever lost. And if you have thought ahead enough to say the final dishes is what I do, and you can't always tell how things are going to look, so that you have to have a selection of dishes and artifacts and towels and colors, and they're arranged, in our case, in any event, you can't set a design even. They're arranged watching the monitor. And everything is also seen backwards. It's not a mirror image, so you have to get used to that. And one of the most important things is color. And everybody knows about white and dark and so on, but one of the most important things about color is the contrast, so that when you're choosing dishes to take yourself, if you're going to do a demonstration, if you can find out what kind of work surface you're going to have, or take several choices. Very dark on very light is bad, and it doesn't matter except what the color is. And it's the contrast that makes the difference. And it's also very important to make sure that the food is not always quite as brown as you would have it if you were just going to serve it. And you supervise that, and I'm always heckling our wonderful cooks not overcook, but to cook it not quite as brown as it would be, because it tends to look black on television. I'm sure you have all seen that. And it's a wonderful idea also to make yourself a big tray, because you have to spring into action very quickly. And you have all kinds of decorations, say parsley and cherry tomatoes and one thing and another, that are suitable for the dish being prepared. And a variety of shapes and sizes of serving plates. Even though you've done this before, you know exactly what the plate's going to be prepared. And it's great fun because you compose things instantly, and everybody helps and suggests and so on. But I think the main idea is not to get a fixed idea in your head how you're going to have the final dish appear, because it doesn't always work that way. And I've been very lucky because I have been able to choose and buy all the dishes that you see, and this was dinner at Julia's and our new project. And this is so that I know exactly what we have at all times, and I also keep track of where everything is, which is very important, because we need something in a hurry. I know exactly where it is, and I keep track of it, and I keep things from going into the kitchen for washing, because they end up in this big sink, and they say, where is the... And this is very important if you're planning to work this way, and to keep it by you. And fortunately, in this case, now I have a big room. But in the last television show, we had very small space to work in, and we were able to do it very successfully. And we have a tape, which I'd like to show you, of the views of some of the dishes that we plated for the dinner. And we thought you'd be interested in that. And can we have the tape, please?
Are you ready for dinner? I've seen salmon that we got from Seattle, and we went up there and saw it all smoked in the beginning.
It's going to be very nice.
I think we can lovely. Isn't that?
Cocktail party were always the most important because that was the first thing the camera saw. You saw the cocktail party and the flowers and the titles, and then you saw the food, and that was made the hors d'oeuvres very, very important. And we had 10 people for dinner, and we couldn't tell always exactly what moment our waiters were going to bring the food out, so that we had to hold it with Marion. It was fun and exciting, and our coach, Russ Morash, would spur us on. And this is a beautiful bouillabaisse, and it was very photogenic. And this is a lovely La Tulipe, and this was one of our favorite hors d'oeuvres, the bread and the bread.
Artichoke.
Artichoke heart, yes. And
What's that?
oh, duck, yeah. And this was that was a beautiful souffle
This is
crepe.
a salmon
and the
from
salmon.
Seattle.
Seattle salmon, and that's rabbit. We decided to have rabbit for our formal dinner, and it was very
That's
well
a saddle of
received.
veal.
Saddle of veal.
Only $110.
And this, we had a gathering sequence for each dinner, and the one with the chocolate truffles was Seattle truffles. They're nice.
Dilettante.
Dilettante. And we had to work in
What's
a
that?
dessert
That
that
was
went
a
with
salad.
it, the salad. Oh, and a beautiful ham for hors d'oeuvre, which looked very special.
What's that?
And that's the salmon with the
Oh,
fish
yes, this
scales.
is a-
The René Verdon was the guest chef that evening. And that's it, I guess.
Yes, I think it is. Now, Marion is executive chef for the video book, and she also was for dinner at Julia's, and she is a chef in her home right at the Nantucket Straight Wharf restaurant. She also does the cooking segments for Victory Garden, and she's the author of the best vegetable book I've ever seen, called The Victory Garden Vegetable Book. Marion Morash. Get it all in.
I want to tell you, first of all, I want to tell you that there's this little battle between Rosie and the kitchen, and it's been that way with Julia Child and More Company, dinner at Julia's, and now the videotapes. The plate, we can't get a hold of the plate. She guards these plates with great care, but it's because she's very careful about those things, and it pays off because we don't have any chips on our nice plates. I remember when the Fannie Farmer cookbook came out, and I don't know if Marion Cunningham's here yet, but she came to Boston, the Culinary Guild, and she talked about writing a book. She talked about writing her book, the Fannie Farmer Cookbook, revising it, and she didn't talk about writing a cookbook. She talked about what she did when she wrote a cookbook, and that's kind of what we feel that we're going to do today. So I'm going to just tell you about my experiences and hope that you can benefit from them some way along the line. I never thought when I listened to Marion Cunningham that at one point I would be kind of repeating what she said when she said she started to write a book that took 1 year and it took 4, and we all laughed. And a few years down the pike, that happened to me. So I hope that our personal experiences will be valuable. When I started cooking, I was very lucky. As you know, I'm married to the producer that started working with Julia 20 years ago. And so a nice benefit was when it was a smaller crew in those days, those early days. And on Thursday nights, we used to get home things like goose stuffed with prunes, stuffed with foie gras, half cooked, with a nice note from Julia about, "Dear Mary, and this is how you finish it." So we had all our company on Thursday nights. And that's really how I got cooking, because I had a father that was a professional chef and a mother that was a wonderful cook, and so I went into stage design and never cooked. So Julia really led me into it, and it became a hobby, and more than a hobby. All our friends were cooking with Julia, and we all began to cook. And eventually it got so heavy duty that I wound up opening a restaurant with friends. And then shortly after that, I started doing demonstration work with Julia and working on Julia Child Moore Company. And my husband, no dope, realized he was doing the Victory Garden television show, and people were writing in and saying, viewers were writing in and saying, we love Jim Crockett, he's a wonderful host. Could he give us a recipe for zucchini now that we have all the zucchini? So Russell turned to the cheapest place to get a recipe, and he said, Marion, you work in a restaurant, give us a recipe, which I did. And then the people liked that, the viewers liked that, and they said, could we see some recipes? And so I began to do some segments on the Victory Garden, much to his disgust, because sleeping with the producer is not always the answer. He wants you to work for nothing, and you know. So he said, and he was also very worried about kind of the conflict of interest. He didn't want it to look like he was promoting his wife when he was just trying to get a couple of free minutes. And also that he was very concerned about his gardeners. It was a gardening program, and he didn't want the cooking to offend anybody who was there to see gardening, not cooking. So we started the first season with 6 segments in a 26-week series, and they were very small, well, you know, 30 seconds. And they liked it. The people out there said, great, I'd like to see some more about cooking the vegetables I have. So then we extended it. And what was interesting, or what it has become interesting to me, is that having worked on the regular television shows with Julie in the past, where we had lots of setups and there was a half hour of heavy-duty cooking, which I think is probably not going to happen to many of us anymore. I think that the half-hour cooking show is probably a hard thing to do these days. And that it's much more likely that all of you who, like I, had cooking experience which could justify what I was doing, all of you do too, but I think it's unlikely that very many of us in this room would get a half-hour television series anymore. But I think it's much more likely that you would get small segments within another show, in a magazine show, or within some other format like the Victory Garden. So the technique really changed, and what it was, again, I wasn't allowed 15 people backstage. It was, you know, honey, we're coming out to the house on Thursday, have 7 recipes ready, and we're going to do it. And Dick Holden, that wonderful photographer, and a sound man, and a couple of people that were needed in my kitchen, and that's it. So it really became another thing that I think all of you can fall back on, organization. And I think being a chef in a restaurant, and any of you that run cooking schools or cooking teachers or caterers have that experience. It's really organization to do cooking segments. There are people who have incredible personalities who will always be ahead on television, and the rest of us who can do a little cooking and really need to rely on incredible organization, which I actually learned from Julia doing demonstrations in the original series with hers, because it is all written down somewhere, and you really have to know what you're doing. And so that helped me with working with Julia helped me with these little segments. And I'm going to show you 2 little segments. One is 42 seconds long, and that is because they say, gee, Russ says, I have 28 minutes and 40 seconds, and I need 42 seconds, Marion. Do a 42-second recipe. And then he'll say, well, we can fill 2 minutes and 19 seconds, so do something with that. So I'll just show you these 2 to get an idea of it. And then I'll tell you how it relates to what we're doing now in videotape, which I think is much more of an option for all of you. I think videotapes, I feel, are going to be something that all of you might like to do. And this method of concentrating recipes and getting them into short segments can really jam-pack a videotape, which is really what we're doing on these tapes of Julia, so that they're just full of information. And I think that our I'm probably talking too much, but I think that our minds are changing. I think media has taken over our lives, and I really think that people can absorb, or are used to absorb, not that they can absorb anymore, but they're used to absorbing much more now than perhaps at a earlier time when we didn't have so many impulses coming to. We can fast forward, in other words, through a lot of things, and I think that people can absorb lots of concentrated recipes, and they don't have to see, you know, the 20-minute recipe anymore. I think that that's maybe not necessary. And I think it was interesting that when we did Dinner at Julia's, which was more of a magazine show than she'd ever done before, which had, you know, going out to the gathering place and the guest chef and the guest vintner and 15 minutes of solid cooking and a dinner party and a cocktail party. The people that wrote in that were so ecstatic about it were a lot of young people who had never watched Julia before, and they were attracted to it because they liked all this stuff coming at them. And what has happened is that we have figured that for an hour of videotape, we have to get 15 minutes done per day. And 15 minutes of actual television time is really a lot. Somebody once said it's a minute, but
about an hour.
a minute. So that you're, yeah. And so one of the reasons that we have 15 people working on this project is because of time constrictions. We have to get 15 minutes done. When I'm doing this in my own kitchen, we do maybe 5 segments at a time, and I have a day for that. And my segments are much less complicated than what we're doing on Julia's. So you see, you just need a lot of time, and that's one of the reasons that the only way we can get 15 minutes done of the way to cook is just to have a lot of people working behind the scenes. But a lot of it is done just this way, where it's right at the very end. Julia really does the steps. It's not brought in, and there aren't 14 backups like there used to be in the old days. It's really almost done on site. And so I think that the other thing is, if any of you are interested in videotapes, I think the next best thing is to get yourself the best producer and cameraman in the world. That's one of the secrets of success. And then also organize yourself. And what we have done, and I would just quickly run through one of these. I'm probably over my time. Am I over my time? What's my time?
I'll kick you.
Oh, you'll kick me. All right, she's going to kick me.
You have 1 minute.
1 minute, all right. But we set up a whole, in order to get in an hour's worth of videotape, we set up a whole breakdown of all the recipes and then time them. Say, how long is it going to take to show an egg poaching in a pan? 20 seconds, and 30 seconds, and 40 seconds. So we really break it down so that you can fit it in and eliminate it. I would suggest for anyone who wants to do a little demonstration videotape, however, to send off for cooking schools or something, to do it more in a documentary style where somebody films you and watches you at work, because it's very hard and very costly to get the kind of people we have. Now let Nancy go on with it.
Now Nancy Barr has been doing lots of work for Good Morning America behind the scenes, and she's also done some videotapes herself. And I think one thing too, it's very hard. I don't know how Marion manages to do it with no help in the kitchens. Every time that I've gone, I've been with Nancy, or I've been with Rosie, or I've been with somebody else. I think it's terribly hard to do these things by yourself. Pay people. Get somebody good, like Nancy or Marion.
I'm available, if you're in a sunny climate especially. I travel. Thank you, Julia. Marion and I did a little survey yesterday on who likes to be in front of the camera and who likes to be behind, and we decided that anyone born under the sign of Leo likes to be in front of the camera and Pisces behind. But at this point, we've only interviewed 3 people, so we have a little way to go. If you have any comments, you can let us know. I love being back where I am. As Julia said, I work mostly for Good Morning America as the executive chef for their kitchen. If you're not familiar with the show, Good Morning America puts on almost weekly cooking segments. They're 3 to 4 minutes. They're live or live on tape, meaning when we tape them, we do not stop. We go from beginning to end. They may be a guest chef, such as Wolfgang Puck or Paula Wolfert, and they may be a celebrity who likes to cook, has a recipe, will come on and do the spot on television. A lot of people ask me constantly, well, what is your job? I never see you on television. My mother asked me more than anyone else. I never see you. Where is it? I'm back there. I think the best way it was put in a recent conversation with Marcella Hazan, she said to me, and for those of you who know Marcella, she has almost perfect English, but she said to me, Nancy, what it is you do? I said, well, I'll tell you what I do, Gia. I see my job. First of all, I'm not a stylist. A lot of people think that that's my job there, and I am not a stylist, although it's part of my job. There's never a time when a dish is ready that I don't wish Rosie was standing next to me, but that is not my basic job. Basically, I see my position as having 3 points. I'm a coordinator. I coordinate between the studio, that means the writer and the producer, and the cook. I make sure that when the writer and the producer said, this is the spot we want finished, I can make the cook make that work. get it camera ready. I work as a facilitator. When a cook comes on, if they have, sometimes they come on and they've done all the preparation and there's really not much for me to do other than get it set up on the trays in the order that it's necessary. Sometimes we get the recipe and the visiting guest chef will appear and all the food has to be prepared. Then I do all the cooking. I should add that even I have assistants. I don't have to do it all. GMA has been wonderful about this. I have prop men who have been trained. They can peel onions in their sleep. As a matter of fact, there's one young fellow, the very first time he worked for me, we happened to be doing, I think, about 30 onions. And I set him at peeling 30 onions. And now, after 2.5 years, every time we come on, the first question he asks me, are there onions today? Onions today? I'm also there as security, and I really have to give Sonia Selby-Wright, our producer, a tremendous amount of credit for the fact that she wants me there as security, to make sure that the food is honest, to make sure that the food works. Many a producer, television studio may know nothing at all about food. They're willing to take the guest chef, put it on, and pretend it works. And you have an audience out there trying to do it, and it doesn't work. So Sonia will go over that with me. Can this work? Is this an honest ingredient? Is this ingredient available to people? I think it's wonderful that GMA took the time to do that. Now, how do I do my job? A lot of times by rote. We're usually at the studio by 5 or 5:30, and I'm usually awake by 6:30, as Sonia will tell you. Before I've had enough coffee in me, I'm not working. So I have a system that I do, and I do it every time I go to the studio. Marion probably has her own system, Rosemary will have hers, etc. It doesn't really matter what your system is, as long as you have one that works for you. The very first thing I do, I like to have the script and the recipe enough ahead of the show, the day before, 3 or 4 days before is better, to go over it, to make sure that there isn't a hidden technique that is going to be difficult to show. Make sure they haven't forgotten something food-wise. Have they prepared enough ahead of time? Sonia's very good at this, and I find very little problems having to change Sonia's. Sometimes I've worked with other producers or writers, and I do have to make some alterations. So that's the first thing I do, is go over that to find out what I'm going to do. I get to the studio early. That's because Sonia says I have to. No, I get there early because I really want to get that prep done and have time. I'd rather sit with 2 extra hours than have 2 minutes and not be ready. The next thing I do is check the food carefully, very carefully. We were doing a spot a few years back. Julia was making gravlax, and it called for 2 fresh salmon fillets. Got to the studio, I checked, looked in the refrigerator, sure enough, there they were wrapped in white salmon fillets. Do not touch, Julia Child. So we all check and double check. I think Susie Davidson was with us at the time. She came in, first thing, where are the salmon fillets? Open the refrigerator, there they are, all wrapped, no problem. We had another assistant, Adrian Welch, check the salmon fillets. They were there. We all knew they were. Julia, of course, checked them. My producer checked them. We got all set, ready to go, and at that point where we wanted to take them out, we had left them refrigerated because once we made the gravlax, we wanted to be able to use them. So ready to go, open up the salmon, and we had 2 smoked salmon fillets, not the fresh salmon fillets. Well, I have never seen anyone make smoked salmon look like fresh salmon as quickly as Julia did. She carved it down and patted it up, and we had the camera stay back. But since that time, I open cans to make sure that what the can says is inside the can. Check your food carefully, and if there's any doubt, overbuy a little bit. Now, you do have to be cost conscious. With the salmon, we couldn't buy 12 and have that luxury. But if it's a matter of you need 5 pounds of flour, don't buy 5 pounds, buy 8 pounds. Equipment list. Again, I should make a little aside here. At GMA, the marketing is done for us, and the equipment is purchased for us and is there. That makes it very nice. I know most of you who are going into studios, and I have worked in commercial studios where I had to take everything with me, and that is a bother. You have more control that way. Many chefs, even though we tell them we have a fully stocked kitchen, they still come with their own equipment, and that's all right. That's all right. There are many things you will need that might not be at the studio, and you should really have those with you. I got to take a little drink of water there. Okay. When I set up the equipment, once I've checked all the food, I begin to check the equipment, and I set it up on trays. I set up the trays in the order in which it will be cooked. I'm very careful about that because remember, we're working in 2.5 to 3 minutes. sometimes we're setting it up in maybe 45 seconds. For example, the other day we did a spot, and they were shooting in our kitchen up until the point that there was a 2-minute break, and then we had to set up the stage. If everything isn't out there in the order that it's supposed to go up on the set, you waste a lot of time. Was the utensils down here? Are we putting the food this end? It's also the reason that if you're working on a studio, you're rushing me, that's because you took my time. If you're working in a studio, ask for a rehearsal. If you rehearse and you find out you don't have a spoon there, you'll know it during the rehearsal. When you go through all of this, regardless, you're going to forget something. Have I time to show my tape, Sonia? I want to show a tape of a spot we recently did with Brendan O'Neill. Brendan O'Neill is a chef from the Shelburne Hotel in Dublin, Ireland. He's one of the members of the Culinary Olympic team that won the bronze medal for hot table recently in Frankfurt. Delightful young man. He was a bit nervous on television, but I had gone over it. I go through the script constantly, and I thought I had absolutely everything out there. It was a beautiful dish he was presenting. You're going to come into the middle of the tape. He had put crab meat and a pork and veal mixture inside a veal scallopini that he floured and breaded, sauteed in a pan, and then he was cutting it.
What I'll do now is put a little bit of sauce on here.
Okay.
And I shall carve it. It just takes just seal it either side in the pan.
Look at this. Look what it looks like. It's a gorgeous dish.
Just straight into an oven for a couple of minutes, and then you'll have it ready.
All right.
Sauce.
Look at this. Can you
see
it's
this?
Really beautiful.
Lovely. See where the crab comes through and the caviar comes through?
It's a gorgeous thing to serve.
And part of the...
Now, should I put this...
Put a little bit of sauce on there.
Right on top here?
Yes. No, sorry, on the plate.
Okay, on the plate. Oh, what's in the sauce?
This is a fish sauce with chives and a little cream and butter. There's no flour whatsoever.
So you started with the fish stock?
Just reduce the fish stock, that's grand.
Okay.
So it's no flour whatsoever in it. Okay.
Now, this is cabbage, right?
That's red cabbage braised in a bit of bacon.
Oh, and look what he's got here to
some
decorate
shamrock
the plate.
Here. Shamrock is part of the sorrel family and is very edible. There's a little acid sometimes in it, oxal acid, and people can be a little allergic to it.
Oh,
but
so be careful.
The cream takes out any of the acid.
Oh,
and then we
and
just
this
put
is definitely the chef's finishing touch. Look at this. This is
right, a little shellfish into it, just to show that the shellfish within the meat.
The beautiful, beautiful dish.
And if you wish to add a little bit of extra lemon...
I don't have a fork to take a taste. Oh,
this?
No.
Is that
this
nice?
is a real class act. I don't believe I'm doing this when he just did this beautiful thing. But I really should take a little taste, don't you think? Want to help me out there?
Yes. I just cut that for you.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
It looks absolutely
little
gorgeous.
sauce with it. Now, how's that? Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. You know, this is a point of second guessing what is going to be done. There was nothing on the script that said Joan would taste. It simply said she will hold up the plate. But you should always think ahead. Maybe she is going to want to take. I should have had a fork and knife next to her there. Believe me, I do now. I think now I send out 6 of each, just in case. While I am doing the tray setup and the food check, food is being prepared, but that's because I have assistants with me and I can get the prep going. You will have to do this simultaneously, naturally planning those things that take long cooking to get done well ahead. A couple of things about backups. If you're going to be doing a tape, always, always, always have backups for the stage as you go along. It's not necessary to have numerous, but a couple. If something goes wrong, the other day Paula Wolfert was doing something where she folded a dough on. If that had broken, it's nice to bring the other one right out, have it ready to go, for her not to have to wait while you undid it and made it work again. One time, I remember when Julia was doing peas one time, we didn't have backup because peas were scarce, and we washed peas off to get the original stage out. So once you've done that, you'll have a backup. Always have a finished product. Regardless of whether you're going to finish the dish on the set, have one underneath. You may drop it, it may break, you don't get there. It can even be a dummy. I don't know if any of you watched Good Company yesterday. Susie Davidson did an absolutely delightful spot on lamb chops wrapped in puff pastry. And when I looked at the little one the finished ones, I thought, I wonder if they're really lamb chops inside. I mean, I'm sure there were, but the point was they didn't have to be. It was a finished dish. It was for presentation. Nobody ate it, and they can be make-believe inside, as long as you have a completely finished platter that looks right. Okay, what skills do you need for this? You need to be organized, fast, and Marion's reminding me that I'm not. You should think under pressure. You should be able to delegate responsibility. You know, I didn't like to tell Brian to peel those 30 onions, but you have to tell. Somebody's got to do the work and be able to, you know, pass it on. Be flexible. Remember, you're doing someone else's food. I'm not making my food, so half of what I make does not look like what my food would, but know that. Know this is not supposed to be your food. Find out what the chef wants. Okay, now I've talked to you about a position that doesn't exist a great deal because there aren't many television stations that hire people in my position. Now I'm here on a campaign. I think cooking teachers are perfectly suited for this. First of all, they usually have the flexibility of time. You might have a few hours a week. You also are usually organized. You're used to giving demonstrations. You know what a chef needs when he's going to put on a program. So I think that we should start, as I've done, go to TV studios. Say you may only do 3 cooking segments a month. When you do, hire me. I will go in and I will get everything prepped for that chef. Try to pick up a little bit of experience by working with someone who's already done it, if you can find that. Also see if a traveling chef, if they're on book tour, would like someone to come along as an assistant. I was very lucky. I started working with Julia, and she taught me what I knew, and from that, GMA hired me in cable television, etc., in numerous places. It's a wonderful position. If you like being behind the scenes, if you like the excitement of it, I highly recommend it. And I think that as cooking teachers, this should be our place to be.
Good, Nancy. That's fine. And this is Sonia Selby-Wright, our producer at Good Morning America, who has produced this show, and she's going to tell you cooking from her point of view.
I guess the first thing I should do is apologize for the feedback problems we're having in the studio. The station has been absolutely incredible, but with the amount of time that we've had to set up, I'm sorry, there's nothing that we can do about it, so please bear with us. I guess the first thing would be, who is suited to be on television? Not everybody. You may be a marvelous writer, you may be a marvelous cook, you may be a marvelous teacher, but not everybody has the kind of personality that comes across well on television. That's not a major strike against you or anything, it's just a fact of life. There are plenty of authors of books who've written wonderful books who just can't communicate on television. You have to be able to romance the camera. You have to be able to talk to it as if it were a person, and that has to come across. Try it. If you're not comfortable, the audience is not going to be comfortable. And that's probably one of the most important things, is being comfortable in what you do and being confident in what you do. If you're comfortable, if you're confident, the audience is not going to worry. If you're nervous, upset, and afraid, the audience is going to pick that up. Special skills. I think Nancy and Marion and Rosie between them have really covered most of this, the ability to communicate, the attention to detail, which is absolutely critical, and anticipate what can go wrong and always be prepared. Now, you should all have a recipe for tarte tatin. And the reason I wanted you all to see that is because this is one that we have done, I would say, under really near perfect conditions. You have the recipe, you have the directions, and don't read it all now, but if you just note a few things about it, then we'll show you the tape. The caramel's already in the pan, the apples have been pre-cut, there are apples already cooked in a pan, the pastry's already made, and we have a finished product. So if we could see that tape, please, and then read your notes later. Just remember what you see visually, and then later you can refer back to your notes and see how it all happened. Can we see it?
I'm going to make one of the most famous French apple tarts that there is, called the tarte tatin, after the sisters Tatin, who had a famous restaurant on the Loire River. It's an upside-down apple tart. You start with a caramel and then apple slices, and you fill up your pan, and then you cover it with a pie crust dough, and then you bake it, and you turn it upside down, and the dough's underneath, and this beautiful array of caramelized apples are on top. You have several tricks to it if you want it to turn out well. And a very important thing is be sure that you get yourself apples that will hold their shape. I always use golden because I think they're the safest. And then peel them and core them and cut them into quarters, and the quarters I cut into thirds, because these are big apples. Toss them with a half cup of sugar, the grated rind of a lemon, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Toss them up and let them exude any juices they may have. You don't want no juices in there, that's too much. And while they're waiting around, make a caramel in a heavy, this is just a heavy old American iron pan, 9 inches across, 2 inches high. And I have in here 3/4 of a stick, that's 3 ounces of butter, and 1 cup of sugar, and that's just caramelized. And look, that's a beautiful thick syrup. And then you want to make a very neat row of apples in the bottom of the pan, like this, and this caramel is hot. And just make a very, very neat bottom arrangement, as you can see, nicely looking. And then fill the pan until it's overflowing, because the apples are going to cook down. And then cook it over heat, and you want to cook it until the juices will exude from the apples. Put a cover on and take them off and baste them until it looks like this. See, these have cooked down, and the trick here is be sure that the syrup that you baste them with is a thick syrup, because if it's too juicy, you're not going to be able to unmold it later. Then take it off the heat and let it cool, and make a pie crust dough using your best formula for a nice butter pie crust. Lay that on top and push it down in, and then preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and then bake it for about 20 minutes until the dough is nice and crisp. And here you are. And now, this is a little bit unwieldy, but we're going to unmold it, hoping for the best. And if by any chance you've got to make sure and look at it beforehand that the juices are thick, then up she goes, and there it is. You see, that's nice and brown and caramelized on the underside. And if by any chance, see, here's one apple that's stuck in the bottom, you can just put the apple back on again. If by any chance you've really mussed it up, you can have some whipped cream and cover the top of it, but you hope for the best. And now, I'm going to show you how it looks when you serve it. This is what is so lovely about this tart, is you've got this wonderful buttery caramelized taste. As always, the first slice is hard to get out. Come on there. There you are. Look at, isn't that lovely? That caramel has gone all through the apples, and you can serve it with a little whipped cream, and you've got one of the best desserts you've ever ate in your life. I think it's apple supreme. This is Julia Child. Bon appetit. An example of it's very brown. From a food designer's point of view, that's too brown. Rosie always says, food is brown.
No, food is brown.
Was that a little over caramelized or not? Had the bottom burned or
Well,
not?
Julia, I don't know if you remember that day. We had 5 brand new Griswold pans in which we were going to, Julia kept saying this could be done. We kept saying, Julia, it can't be done, it can't be done. She kept saying, we can do a tart tatin in 2.5 minutes. So we purchased the brand new Griswold pans. We went to the studio the day before. We got everything lined up in the pans, ready to go. And we got to the studio that morning early. Everything still looked wonderful. And unfortunately, that was the day that Anwar Sadat was shot. And they said, sorry, we won't do this today, we'll do it tomorrow. So we went home, we thought, well, how will they look tomorrow? Well, the brand new Griswold pans had all turned the apples gray. So now we had pans of gray. So we very quickly had to put things together. And yes, some of them were overcooked, etc. And we were just pleased that we got it all in 2.5 minutes. So but it is too brown. And it's a reason that it's awfully nice to have someone like Rosie on hand, because when you're trained as a cook, you cook to cook the dish, and you have to keep reminding yourself it is not, as Julia says, taste division, it's television, and it's got to look right. So, sorry, Rosie.
But people in the studio are going to eat it, so it's got to taste good. Because if you're cooking and everyone says, gosh, so-and-so was in last week and you should have tasted that food.
They have never said that.
I think that's a good point to bring up too. The food that you cook for television is not always properly cooked, or fully cooked rather. And you have to be careful about the host eating it. You may need to say to the host, take a little bit from the side here, or just take the sauce, because you don't want them eating uncooked shrimp. And because food has sat around under light sometimes for a very long time, you want to be careful with the food afterwards, because the crew is always going to absolutely devour anything that's left over. And you've got to be very careful. If it's something that might have turned over the course of time, make sure it's thrown out and not just left around for somebody to eat. And I once didn't follow my own rules and ate something that had been lying out in the sun for quite some time, got very sick on it. I think we've probably all done it. I guess probably it would be good for me at this point to jump to what happens when something goes wrong. And we do have a couple of tapes, and while they're getting those for us, if something goes wrong, you can't cry. You somehow have to live with it and live through it. So you make the best of it that you can, and just keep your sense of humor and say, well, let's see what Julia does.
Classical method of doing is to brown it in a 500-degree oven for about 2 or 3 minutes. But the modern method is the blowtorch. I think we've used this before, have we not?
Yes, I don't know that we have. I don't know that we have.
Yeah. But anyway, I think it's a wonderful kitchen instrument. I think we should attach it on, because you're going to have to brown it. And
okay, so you're putting the gas bottle on your belt. Okay.
And now we light it, and you start like very...
Okay, ready. That's what Steve Bell told me, to be careful about the flaming thing.
Brown it.
Brown it.
You have to do it rather slow.
Aha! Okay, watch your fingers there. Yep. I'll be dog. Whoops. Uh-oh. Turn off the gas. Turn off the gas.
No, we have to keep it going, because we're not... Where's the matches?
Wait, I turned your dial there. Here, I'll do that if you'll get your dial. Okay, I didn't want too big of an explosion.
Oh, I have to do another one.
Okay, thank goodness. It's going to be all right. All the firefighters of America.
I've got too much gas on, that's the thing.
Okay, right. Light.
Well, anyway, we're supposed to pour the bourbon in there. It's supposed to flame down.
Boo! Boo, what's going to happen?
Well, this won't light, I don't think, will it? No.
What? Oh, darn.
Well, we can still eat it, David.
Take her word for it. Darn, right. Take her word for it. I have the rum spoon right here.
There's plenty of unflamed bourbon.
And we'll be right back after this. Go ahead, Jack.
I'm going to have a little taste of that, too.
So if it doesn't work, eat it anyway. Now we have a second tape, and this one I think shows you what you can do when things get really desperate. Do you have it?
He tells me that crepes flambe can be very easy to make. You have your work cut out, though. My wife can tell you. Anyway, it sounds complicated to me, but let's find out how simple it can be.
Well, this is just an ordinary crepe batter, and I'll put some in a pan, and you'll see you just get the pan very hot, and these are no-stick ones. You pour it in, and then just move the pan around. I hope I haven't gotten these too hot. Is that very hot?
I'll use this.
Yeah, that's what the towel is for, and then move the pan around so it just spreads it all around.
Right.
And then look and see that has, I think this has gotten very nice and brown. Mine is not going very nicely at all, but I have a lot more. I think we got the pans a little too hot.
I'm not having much.
Let's see. I don't think yours is quite done on the bottom yet.
All right.
Now shake it a little bit, like this.
It's bending.
Now this is...
Okay. Mine's not going to come off there.
Well, we have a whole lot. We have a whole lot more anyway. Throw it on the floor. There.
So there's always something you can do. You just have to be imaginative. And I think that probably brings us to the point about the host of the show that you're going to be working with. Now, on Good Morning America, we're very lucky because we have two hosts who really love cooking, love Julia, and love to have fun with it. And I think this is an important point. Cooking is not funny, but you can have fun with it, and you should have fun with it. You should enjoy it, because if you're not enjoying what you're doing, why are you doing it? So enjoy what you do. Secondly, what happens if you get a host who says, well, my grandmother used to do it this way? Well, maybe she did. And I think you can just say that very nicely and say, well, that's very interesting, but in my method, we do this. Have in your mind what it is you want to say and keep going ahead with it. And always just continue with your thought. As long as you know what you're doing, you're going to be okay. You're not going to have to worry about it. Just continue on. Don't cut the host off. Don't make him look stupid, because then the audience will be alienated against you. But just treat it very nicely. Oh, that's very interesting. I haven't heard that before, and just keep right on going. Opportunities. I think the time is right. I really feel that people are far more interested in cooking than they used to be. There are an awful lot of people out there who want to learn how to do it better. And I think it's up to all of you, if you're interested in television, to try and find ways to do it, to approach stations, to come up with ideas, bombard people with ideas. And I think that there are opportunities out there, and it's up to you to go and get them. I think I have to run back upstairs and change hats again. So why don't we just pause for one moment and clear some of this out of the way and set up the makeup.
Fine, thank you, Sonia, very much. It's interesting to have someone who sees it from the other point of view that we're all trying to get into. Now what we're going to do, Paula Beacon is going to give us some hints on, very often say you're going to sort of some studio and they just have absolutely nothing, and you have to do your own makeup. And I think we should all know a little bit about makeup, because after about the age of 23 and a half, one needs a little help. And Paula's going to work on me. And what are you going to do? Are you going to do this setting up now? No, you're going to. Well, I think she's going to give us hints for all of us. Paula Beacon, who is a professional makeup artist, is going to give us all an idea of what we can do ourselves when we go to a little television station and there's no makeup person and we have to do it for ourselves quickly and easily.
As important, thank you very much, Julie. As important as it is for your food to look wonderful, I want you, and the television audience wants you to look wonderful also. And that just means knowing a few easy things. It isn't, the major thing to be aware of is that television makeup is not radically different from your everyday makeup. The biggest mistake you can make going into the studio is assuming that, one, you don't need it because you're wonderful the way you are, but then on the other hand, is that you need a lot because you're so awful the way you are. Both extremes don't work. So in other words, you don't want to look like Joan Collins, nor do you want to look like you just got out of bed. Someplace in the middle is what I'm going to hopefully get you to. So the first thing you have to be aware of is dark circling under the eye, so that, you know, this is one of those only your makeup artist and you should know for sure. Two ways to get rid of dark circling. One is with a white undercover cream, and the other is with a flesh tone highlighter that is as close to white as possible. The rule of thumb is if something is dark and you need to make it look lighter, white makes things look lighter. Light makes things look lighter. So if you use a deep flesh tone, some of the cover products on the market actually can darken the under eye. And we've already been playing a little bit of makeup on Julia, so I'm just going to touch up, look up in the air. So you place the white highlighter just at the inside corner of the eye, because that's generally the area that's dark. If you place the white highlighter all the way out under the eye, what you're going to do is have white circles under the eye, because it's not dark under there and we don't need raccoon eyes. So I'm going to put a little bit of the white highlighter under the eye, and then you're going to use a foundation. This isn't one of those that you have to look tan and golden and glowing like you just got off of Hawaii's beach if you haven't just gotten off of Hawaii's beach, because your hands and your neck will look like a radically different color, and then only your face will look like you went to Hawaii and you left your body at home. So what I want you to do is use a foundation that is as close to skin tone as possible, because your blush, your contour, your eyeshadows, and your lipstick is what's going to add color to your face, not your foundation. Now you can put a little bit of extra if you want it to be a little bit darker, just a little bit now, you can bring it slightly down onto the neck, but if it matches exactly, that shouldn't be necessary. So the foundation would come over the entire face and blend over the white under the eye. Now look up in the air, Julia. Now Julia already has her foundation all over, so I'm just going to touch up to show you the blending method. Notice that I'm using a sponge and not my fingers. Fingers wipe off makeup. They do not blend makeup on. Now, you can just use the regular foundation you are already using, look up in the air again for me, that you are already using that presently at home. The only trick here is that if you are using a foundation that has a lot of oil in it, the rule of thumb is you don't want to look shiny. That would be the biggest mistake, would be to use a foundation that had too much oil in it, or to use your moisturizer under your foundation. This is the time to forget your moisturizer under your foundation, or use a foundation that contains less oil, because you don't want to shine under these already very hot, shiny lights. So use your regular foundation, leave your moisturizer out from underneath it, and then what you want to do is use loose powder to set the entire makeup. So what you would do is you would take your powder and a brush, and then starting under the eye, spreading across the cheek, you simply dust down the shine. Now, if your foundation is leaving you shiny, if it just has a little bit too much oil in it, just add more powder. That's all it takes, just like that. And it's in downward motions, and you come across the face and under the eye and over the eyelid. And again, you were putting your foundation on all over. For this touch-up job, I only did under one eye. And notice that the white, that the foundation covers the white and blends out under the eye. That's very important. You don't leave the white and the highlighter all by itself, or again, you'll end up with a white circle. Once you're done doing the foundation, then one of the most important things is blush and contour. Now, when I say contour, what I'm talking about is a golden brown color, and the blush is a peach, pink, or red tone. What contour is not is a color like red, peach, or pink. It is always some shade of brown. And what the contour is for, let me change brushes here. Oh, by the way, notice that these aren't the little cute doll-sized brushes that come in cosmetics. You know, those little adorable brushes that come in cosmetic containers, like they're about this big. They all think our cheeks are about the size of little dolls. You can take those brushes and give them to somebody you don't like, or give them to your kids to wreck or clean your husband's electric razors out with. They're fine for that. They're not for the face. So you want to buy and invest in brushes that match the size of the area you're working on. Notice the size of the brush, and then the contour goes at the temple area in about a 3-inch spread off of the back of the eye and up into the sides of the hairline, just up and over the eyebrow, leaving the central area of the face highlighted. Now, if you wanted to, if you were a man chef, you can actually take this golden brown powder and use it as a dusting all over the face to make yourself look golden and tan without having to bother using a foundation, and I do that a lot. But for color, you can make it concentrated at the peripheries, at the temple, and just under the cheekbone. It's a soft color. If it's too heavy, and if you get it on too much, you'll make it look like a stripe. Neither blush nor contour should look like a stripe. In fact, one of the reasons they call blush blush is it's because it's supposed to resemble a blush. If not, they would call it a stripe. So no lines on the face. You want it to look, so what you can use then is you can take that sponge that you use to blend the foundation on, and if you did get a line, if you did get a hard edge, you would simply use that sponge to blend down that area. Okay, so the contour goes in a 3-inch spread off of the back of the eye and slightly under the cheekbone. Notice that I'm using short, quick motions. I'm not rubbing back and forth in a stripe. I'm going short, quick motions to break up the line, and then you put on the blush. Notice again the size of the brush I'm using. This is, got big cheeks, ladies, so we're going to use a large size brush. You pick up the color on the full of the brush, knock the excess off, and here's the trick. You want to find your cheekbone. This isn't one of those, you suck in the sides of your mouth. Sucking in the sides of your mouth only finds the sides of your mouth. It doesn't find your cheekbone. What you're going to do is find your laugh line, and unfortunately that's easy to find. So you're going to find your laugh line. You're going to come 1/4 of an inch behind it, just 1/4 of an inch behind it, straight down from the center of the eye. That cute intersection is where you start your brush. Don't leave me now, Julia. And you start brushing down along the cheekbone. Down. Full strokes down. Remember what I said about striping? If you go like this, you get a stripe. So you brush full strokes down away from the eye. Rules: don't blush below the mouth. Don't blush the laugh lines. They don't need to be any more colorful or prominent than they are. And you don't blush the laugh line by the mouth either. You come behind it, straight back to the ear, brushing down. Most important thing I can share with you is if you bring your blush too far back, then you make your face look pale in the center. If you make it too heavy in the front and too far in, you make your face look almost too red, and then all you are is white nose. Again, again, brushing down and back to the ear. Okay? Now, if eye makeup, I was telling Julia Child that my motto is blue eyeshadow should be illegal, but seeing as how I can't get the legislature to pass that law, I'm just going to implore you to remember that color comes from the lips and the cheeks, and your eyes, not from your eyeshadow. The lips being a nice color and the cheeks being a nice color is plenty of color. The blues and the greens and the strong violets on the market overdo the eye makeup and actually take away from your eye and take away from the rest of the face. So what you want to do, if anything, is simply use an eyeliner and some neutral tan colors as opposed to colors. And so the most important thing then becomes the eyeliner and not the eyeshadow. And one of the easiest ways to do eyeliner then, is to take a dark brown powder. I'm using a powder and a brush. One of the problems with using a pencil, did you ever try to sharpen those guys? Start out with a 7-inch pencil, try to sharpen it, end up with a 1-inch pencil. Of course, when you're in a hurry and need to get on air, that's very easy. Look down. Plus, pencils tend to smear, so I can use a dark brown powder. And plus, I also have another handy-dandy eyeshadow. Look up in the air. If I need it, and because it's a powder, it tends to not move as much. Look up in the air. And then I'm just lining under the eye. So that's my powder liner. You can also use this through the eyebrows to touch up your eyebrows a little bit more. And then the other thing to remember is, remember what we were talking about earlier was no shine. That means if you do choose to wear eyeshadows, no shiny eyeshadows. Now that's hard to find on the market, so you're going to have to do some searching, because shiny eyeshadows will take the camera and punch it even hard, take the lights and make it even hotter, and actually make, you know, that's all we're going to be looking at is your dancing eyelids fluttering around to the audience. So no shiny eyeshadows. Remember that eyeliner is more important than your eyeshadows. You can go on air, look lovely along with your food, and everyone will think you're marvelous.
You have 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes. I don't have to stop talking. Good, I have lots more to say. Okay, let's get to lipstick. One of the things about lipstick that's important is that brown lipstick is not only out of date, and also lining the mouth in a dark color and then with a lighter lipstick inside is out of date. But the problem with brown lipstick is it makes your mouth look uninviting and unattractive. What happens is it literally makes you look like you swallowed your mouth. It darkens it and eliminates it. And one of the things you're communicating with is your mouth. So what you want to do is use a color. And the color we used on Julia actually looks a lot brighter in the tube than it will eventually look on air. One of the things that happens on camera is too bright, too white looking pales you out. Too dark makes you look like you swallowed your mouth. What'll happen then is a nice, not pale, but rich color that is not dark. That's what we put on Julia, is the color that's in here. And you're ready to go and look lovely. And I'm one of the backstage people, so I get to eat when we're done. I can't wait. Thank you, Julia.
Paula, you've written a book, have you?
I've written a book, that's true, called Blue Eyeshadow Should Be Illegal.
Who published it?
I'm self-published. I'm self-published.
Oh, you're self-published?
I'm self-published, yes.
I think that we should all have a book to remember all of that. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now we have a few minutes more, and if anyone has... Here we are, we have just arrived in Minneapolis, USA to do a little television segment of 8 minutes. And as usually when you arrive in one of these places, they have absolutely nothing, so we always have a sacred bag, and this is Rosemary Manell, who works with me as my associate. And you just have to have somebody to help you in one of these things. So I always have my apron. If you notice here, I have a little bag here that holds that I always bring along, because they never have at these stations anything to put the microphone in. We have our knives. I think it's essential, even though they say they're going to give you everything, they never do. We have scissors and a knife sharpener, and fixing fingernails, a little makeup if you have to do the makeup yourself. There's some more makeup. What else do we have, Rosie?
Wonderful stuff. And here's a nozzle to our flamethrower. Live without it.
If you saw on that Good Morning America sequence, that thing that didn't work, this is the new kind that's called I think it's the Surefire. But you'll find, like peeling tomatoes. And you'll notice that I think this should work very nicely. Ralph, where does, oh. Where's our two-pronged fork?
Our two-pronged fork. Yes, it's in the knife, Oh,
here it is.
There it is.
But this works marvelous for proof. You'd think it was silly, but if you have to peel tomatoes and they haven't anything, this works very, very well.
Look at that wonderful cat.
And then where's our list? We have a list of everything.
It's right here.
Anyway, we have bottle openers, a nail brush, extra matches. We have Band-Aids. There's a little polysporin in case you really cut yourself badly. And we have a little box of pills, Lomotil, in case you don't feel well. And I've had hot flashes for the last 25 years. I have a little thing called Bellergal space tabs, which helps. And I once had a terrible case of cystitis, so I have some cystitis pills as well. So in other words, we come prepared with everything. And one, I think, this is very important if you're traveling around. Give me that thing. Half the time they don't have anything that will cook. Take along one of these little things, and to avoid power drops. I didn't know about that. For a long time I kept wondering why things wouldn't cook. If you have a little extension cord, you get a power drop. But so either take or demand one of these 12-watt things. Otherwise, you try to cook something and it won't work.
Julia, what are you going to show us first?
Well, we're going to do, we have 8 whole minutes. We're going to do a somewhat complicated recipe. If we did tarte tatin in 3 minutes, we're now going to do chicken marengo in 8.
Okay.
So,
go ahead
and we have done prep. What I'm going to show first is that we have already browned part of the chicken. And then I'm going to take the chicken out of the pan, out of here, into this pan. And there doesn't seem to be too much extra fat, so we're going to make a tomato. No, that's wrong, isn't it? Because this is only half-cooked chicken. I keep forgetting what we're doing. That's what the useful thing, having a little rehearsal. So I'm going to season it with thyme and a bay leaf, salt and pepper, and then cover it, and it's going to cook a little bit more with the seasonings on. And while that's doing, I'm going to do the garnish, which are going to be French fried eggs. I will first do 2 croutons in this hot oil. I'll do them and they'll go over there. And then I'm going to do the French fried eggs, which will go in there and then into here. And then I'm going to cook 4 shrimp. And by that time, we will say that the chicken is ready, so I'll go over to here, take the chicken out, put the tomato and the stock and a little bit of wine in, and cook that around. What else did we say we were going to do, Rosie's? Is that it? Because then the tomato goes in and then the chicken goes back in. What's very important here, where is our finished dish? I mean, how finished is it?
It isn't finished.
Oh,
I mean, it was going to get...
well, assemble it right now, I think.
We can get that in the commercial break.
Well, I think it's terribly important that no matter what happens, that you have a finished dish. So even if the eggs all break and the chicken burns and everything else, talk and talk.
Does the lid need to be on the saucepan to start?
No, it doesn't have to be. So I think we're ready to go.
Good morning.
Good morning,
everybody.
Cliff. How are you?
How are you again? Good to see you.
Very happy to see you.
Did you tell them what the program is going to be here? How we're going to...
Yes, I said that we had 8 minutes and that this was a live program and
Just like it was live. Right?
just like it was. This is live. Yeah.
They always tell us 8 minutes when in reality they mean about 3.5. But we'll make it 8, huh?
We'll go 4 minutes, take a 1-minute break, and come back.
Okay, this is going to be just like a regular Good Company show,
But
which
Chris,
we do.
you're an anchorman and a newsman and everything.
And it's Cliff, but that's right,
It's
all
Cliff,
of us. No,
yeah.
I'm not. That's all. No, I'm just a basic talk show host in the morning.
Oh, good.
Good company.
Fine, that's just what we want.
I'd like to be an anchorman, but because the pay is probably better, but
Well, if you were
they don't
Bar-
get to eat is the
If you were
problem.
Barbara Walters,
Cliff,
what
whenever
would you
you're ready.
get?
Well, if I was Barbara Walters, probably about $1.5 million a year, but
Yeah.
who's counting anyway? Are you ready? Okay, now there is hang on one second, there is a book that we are going to sort of allude to.
Well, we
at
have
some point.
already talked about the book.
Okay.
Now, one thing I think, remember, if you're selling a book, have Rosemary or somebody hold up a sign and say, "What are you here for?"
Yes.
In other words, I always forget that we're selling a book.
That's right, that's
Yeah.
right.
Well,
Or
she's
why
already
did-
done that.
Stand by.
Okay. No red lights, all right. This morning on Good Company, we are absolutely delighted to have the one and only Julia Childs with us in the studio. Julia, welcome. Nice
We're
to have you
very
on our
happy
show.
to be here.
And it smells absolutely wonderful.
Well, it's going to smell even better, Chris.
What is the recipe?
What we're going to do is chicken Marengo. This is
Chicken
Marengo. This was
Marengo.
a favorite dish of Napoleon's after he won the Battle of Marengo. There was nothing there, and the chef rushed out, brought in the chicken, some tomatoes, some garlic, and olive oil, and
there
eggs.
it was.
And there it was. And
My
there
goodness.
It was.
Okay.
So what we're doing, because we don't have all day over it, I have some chicken legs and thighs, which we've just browned nicely.
No breasts.
And now I'm going to no
legs
breasts,
and thighs.
because we want things that all cook the same time.
Oh, I
So I'm going
see.
to put a little seasoning. I've got a little thyme in there, and I'm going to put in a bay leaf and a little salt and pepper. No, it's just seasoning it up a little bit.
Of course, you don't have to measure, do you? You just put, there it is, no problem. Just a
Well, I mean, after you've
turn
cooked,
of the wrist.
after you've cooked
You
long
got
enough, you don't. And that's just going to cook very slowly like
Okay.
that. And in the meantime, I'm going to do the garnish,
All right.
which is
Sort of just going
which is
sidestepping down here as we go along, huh?
some French bread, which gets browned in olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
This is a rather unusual garnish, but it's just delicious. You wouldn't think that you'd have eggs and shrimp and
Yeah, it's
tomatoes all together. But
pretty
wait till you
involved.
taste it.
Now, this must be what, about
This
a
is just-
150, 160-year-old recipe then, huh? Longer ago than that, I
When would
guess.
it have been? 18 something.
Yeah.
Yes, about 150. That's brown enough. And now, the French fried eggs. We'll hope this is going to work nicely.
Okay.
But it's unusual to fry them in oil rather than water.
Boy, more
Stand
than
off.
usual.
Stand off.
Is this, now wait a minute, is this the way most French people actually fry eggs? Is in that much?
Well, they don't know much about frying eggs the way we do.
Because you must have a good,
You have to
cup
have it
of,
nice and warm.
at least a
Have to
cup and a
warm
half
it
of
there.
oil in it.
I've done several eggs ahead of time, but you can get all of this done ahead of time.
Okay.
And then we're going to have, at the Battle of Marengo, they had écrevisses, which we don't have, so we're going to have shrimp. I'm just going to fry those up. See, frying is very nice because it does it so quickly. Have you ever had a French fried shrimp before?
I
in
haven't
the
had a
shell?
French fried shrimp, no.
I never have either, but it's very good.
Sure, be adventurous, Julia, why
That's what
not?
it is, but
And with that much,
those are done.
that much
now.
oil at that heat, it just is
Yes, it
just
cooks
quickly
very
accomplished.
nicely. So now we have, I think the chicken is almost done there.
Can you smell this, audience? Is it wafting out
You
in your
don't have
direction?
smell-o-vision?
Oh, boy.
That's not, so I'm now going to take that out. I'm going to make the sauce. Well, there's so many good, quick recipes for chicken. This is not one of the quickest, but you could do the same idea, but you don't have to have the French fried eggs and the shrimp.
If we were to run a stopwatch on this, what's the
Well,
total
we have
time?
a little fat to get rid of, and where is the wastebasket?
Oh, why don't you just sort of let me
Just
handle
dump that into the waste.
Don't watch.
That'll be fine.
Is this okay?
Good, Cliff. Great.
We don't have to clean it up, do we?
No, that's fine.
There you go.
And now in goes a bit of garlic.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very nice way of doing the garlic. Go
mash it.
wham like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one reason for doing it that way is that all the skin comes off very nicely. In that goes, with none of the skin.
What we're going to do right now is we're going to throw it to commercial just
Now
as
you
we're getting
know-
ready to add that, and we're going to come back and we are going to have this chicken
Marengo. Chicken marengo.
recipe all completed for you in just a few moments right after that. So stay with us. Be right back.
Now what I haven't gotten in here is, that went awfully quickly, that 5 minutes it seems to me.
4 minutes, right?
4 minutes. Well, I'll have the tomato already in here, I think.
Didn't you
So
cue these
during
people
that-
to applaud or something?
What?
Golly, I feel naked without my applause out here.
Now, let's have it right out there.
Oh, no.
30 seconds back.
Now, we still have another 4, right? And if we are going to show the finished product even if we don't get it completely prepared on the air.
How do you get this
Now-
heat on here? There it is.
I'm still confused. Do we talk about a book or not?
We already have
we already
talked
talked
about
about it because I was told by Sonia we might want to mention it, but we don't have to do that now.
Well, you can mention, you
Should they
can
mention
say at the end, this is,
Anything
and this,
you want.
and this recipe's in your marvelous new book.
All right, yes. So what is that marvelous new book?
10
Okay.
seconds.
Marengo.
5.
Marengo.
Stand
I
by.
want to say meringue.
Trio, right now.
All right. Well, we're back with Julia, and we are proceeding with the chicken marengo recipe, and you're doing what to the tomato?
Now we have a beautiful tomato sauce in here. I'm going to put the chicken back in again, and I had, chopped, peel seeded and chopped tomatoes, and we have a little wine in there, and some stock.
Rotini
And I'm
and
just going
Rossi's
to put
best.
that on.
Okay.
And then when the chicken is done, you arrange it nicely on a platter like this.
Garnish together, isn't that
And then we
fantastic?
and we put the fried eggs on top. And if you've never, these French fried eggs with tomato is absolutely delicious. And then the shrimp goes in between. And we have a few little, as you know, a few little olives scattered around. There's some parsley. Would you hand me
Yes,
that?
ma'am. All right. There you go.
And there you are.
And that's it.
Cliff,
That's
chicken
served.
marengo.
Thank you so much. All for me.
And you know that recipe's in our new book.
Is it really?
Yes, I'll send you a copy.
Your marvelous new book. Now this is just for one, right? No, how many people would you really serve with this?
Well, this
good
would
for
serve
8?
4 because you've got 4 shrimps and 4
You
eggs
want to
and 2
divide it
pieces of chicken.
4 by 4. All
Yeah,
righty.
fine.
And the title of the new book for all those of the people who read a lot is
Cooking My Way by Julia Child.
Cooking My Way with Julia Childs. All right. How many recipes do you have in the book?
Oh, 948.
Good. But who's counting? Huh? All right. Well, I tell you what, we will share this wonderful recipe with the audience. I should have a little bit of a bite of this. How do you serve this up? Just Julia had to leave the room for a knife and a fork. You don't mind sort of just digging into this for me, do you?
No,
Sure.
I want you
This
to
is a
taste.
family show. We do things just like you do in your own kitchen at home.
I want you to taste this egg and tomato. It's so
Okay,
good.
well, since we have a whole minute left, I figured we better do something
Oh,
with
do
this.
we?
This is great, yes.
Oh, how
All
nice.
right. The egg and, okay.
Oh, that's
Oh, that'll do fine. In 1 minute, I can only just get one little snatch of that. So
There
here
you
we are.
are.
All right, I just
All
wanted
right.
to taste the egg and the tomato combination
Yes,
is what I
that's
had to dig
lovely.
into.
Yeah. Doesn't that look
It's
nice?
French fried egg, yes. All right, with the sauce. Okay.
You didn't get a shrimp.
Well,
How's it?
next week maybe. All right. Oh, that's wonderful.
Was it
Very good. Chicken
Oh,
meringue
Chicken meringue.
in the new book.
It's in that wonderful new book.
All right. Julia Child, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much once again for joining us on Good Company. Wonderful.
Very nice to do this.
Thank you. My pleasure. Well, what a delight for me to meet somebody like you. I mean, a living legend. I hope we can have you on the real show one of these days.